Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another review for you in the Russian line. This is the Tier 7 Heavy, the KV3, and as always we have a complete guide, and we will start with the tech spec, and we use blitzhanger.com for that as always. Now, KV3, I would say this is average at best for a heavy tank in its tier. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, but when you compare it to others like the Tigers, it will struggle. It's slow and with a slower rate of fire than them. The 107mm gun, by the way, has better handling than the Top Gun. Has the same pen as the Top Gun, does less damage of course, but has a better rate of fire. But the gun handling is much better. However, in the game we're going to look at, I'm going to use the top 122mm gun so you can see what it's like. But you may want to try the 107mm gun. As I said, it has the same pen as the 122 gun. It does less damage, but it is more, let's say, likely to hit the target because the gun handling on the 122mm gun is just awful. What if you can do with the 122mm gun, then you will hit with the 107, and the 107 is quite okay for a tier 8 pen, even though it has less caliber, but because it has the same pen as the 122 and better gun handling, better accuracy and better reload, it can compete in tier 8 as well. Now, as I said, there's nothing particularly wrong with this tank. It does have low muzzle velocity, so therefore you need to use supercharge, etc. But I think the main problem with this tank is when you compare it to the other tanks that it's competing with. So it's like if somebody gives you a Ford, there's nothing particularly wrong with a Ford car, it's a good car. But when you're comparing it to Audis and BMWs, it's not the same thing, right? And the problem I think that the KV3 faces in Tier 7 is that it's up against Tiger and Tiger P, and it's vastly inferior to those. If you come up against a Tiger P or a Tiger Ceratus Paribus, all the other things being equal, and you can come up against a player with comparable skill to you, you will lose, because they're going to out DPM you, they're going to bounce shots, your gun handling sucks, theirs is very good, and you're just going to suffer. You also don't have the maneuverability of them, especially not the Tiger 1, so you're going to suffer, you're probably going to lose. And that's why I'm saying that this tank is just average at best. You know, it is inferior to its German counterparts in particular. And okay, you can look at a tank in isolation, but you're going to compete against those tanks when you play this. So therefore you do have to be aware of what you're coming up against, right? Now this has a decent armor profile for sure. You can side scrape, as you can see, particularly if you're top tier. So you can be sure that you're going to bounce some shots in this tank. You can see here that the tracks are quite exposed, so I would run 2 repair kits, but then I always run 2 repair kits anyway because I never want to be stuck out in the open. And particularly now as you're in Tier 7, you're going to be up against big guns like the SU, ISU and the Rim Borsig, of course, so you do not want to get tracked out in the open in this thing. And this thing is quite slow and cumbersome, so getting tracked out in the open is the last thing you need, because on the sides and back you are very vulnerable. You can see that you do have some armor on the back of the turret, so that is a bit of an advantage for you. You can bounce some shots unbeknownst to yourself, because they're just coming at angles and bounce. And why not take some advantages, even those you don't plan for, because you definitely need them in this tank. You can reverse side scrape in this too, especially if you can hide your butt, which is also an advantage, and that's something that can help you a bit if you're in a tough sticky situation. You can reverse in, hide your butt, and you can reverse side scrape, and the turret armor will help you with that too. There's good relative armor numbers there, as you see on the turret. Looking at this tank front on, you can see if you're top tier, you can go front line and bully up. If you are up tiered, you are going to struggle a little bit, but nonetheless, when you're top tier or against your peers, you actually can do okay. Interestingly, when you look at the recommendations and the tactics for this, when it's in its own tier, there are none recommended, and it's not really good at anything. And this is what I said, it's mediocre, and it's kind of boring tank to play as well. But nonetheless, it's something to get through, because the tanks after it, the KV4 is better. And the ST1 is a brilliant tank, maybe the best heavy in Tier 9, certainly a very, very competitive tank. And then you go out to the IS4, which is a great tank in Tier 10. So, you know, it is something just to get through, basically. Much like the Panther 2 in the Panther line, it's just a tank you want to get through to get to the other side and get to better tanks. This tank is nothing to write home about, nothing fantastic, nothing spectacular, just a mediocre at best medium heavy tank in Tier 7. Okay, so let's have a look at some gameplay. We are going to look at a mastery game in the KV3 on Port Bay. Now, as I said, I'm using a 122mm gun here, even though I think the 107mm is better, but I thought I would play a few games with this, just so you can have a look and see exactly how sloppy the gun handling is and why you should probably use the 107mm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the setup as always, and I'm going to go to see and support my meds there. I think it's probably the best policy given the setup on both teams. So I'm going to inform my team. I'm going to go support them at C. It's also an important thing to think about when you're playing this tank, your opening moves and where you go, because let's say unlike a Tiger 1, this tank is not agile and mobile, so you're not going to be able to get around the map easily. So if you make a bad decision to start, go to the wrong part of the map, and getting back into the position you need to be in is going to be difficult in this tank. So you need to be aware of that. So decision making at the start is perhaps more important than it is with more mobile heavies, like the Tiger 1, that can actually rectify mistakes and get around the map. You see here that gun handling, oof, it sucks. But then you saw the armor in play there against the gun on the medium German tank there, just bounces very easily. I'm going to push up here. I'm top tier, so as I said, I can bully a bit. I can use that armor to push up and try to do some damage with this bigger gun. And you can see when you get up close, that big gun can do damage. And again, another example of the patchy gun handling here. I fired a HE round right into the back of him. I don't get the full alpha round, which should be between 400 and 500, but I also don't just get splash damage, so I don't really know what that round was. You can see again what I mean about when you're top tier. When you're top tier, you're going to bounce shots, as I did there on the T3485. Now, one of the things about having this armor is this. You can do a lot of ram damage, especially on lighter tanks like the Comet. And you see there, nice hit there, 600 damage onto him with a round and a ram. And you can just see just how effective the tank can be. I got a bit of extra momentum coming down the hill to smash into him as well. That gave me a bit of extra damage on him. Now coming down here now, shot selection, decide to fire on the SU. I had been doing some reviews on the SU, so I know that the back of it is really prone to going on fire. So therefore put a round right into the back of them. That 122mm gives me almost a 550 alpha roll with fire damage. So you can see close up and personal, the gun on the 122mm gun can do some significant damage. And you can see that when you get up close and personal, as I did there, you can really hurt the enemy. You know, we took out the T3485 and the SU. We were able to clear the Comet in just a relatively short space of time too. So you can see, you know, the tank can be effective using that armor and gun. But I didn't really have any tough peer competitors to go up against there. There was no Tigers, Tiger Ps, wasn't a T29 for example. Again, another tough, very effective Tier 7 heavy tank that I would probably struggle against. T29, if you've seen the video of the mastery game I did in the AMX 1357, you will see is quite an agile, tough competitor and brawler, and also something that the KV3 would struggle against a bit. You see there, I go up against my peer KV3, put a nice round into the side of him. Now, one of the few heavy tanks that you are more agile than is a KV2, and you'll see here that I actually caused some problems for this KV2 by moving back and forth and not giving a target to fire upon. So just back, rock forward. He's looking for a target. He's also trying to HE me, Now I'm too close from the HE, can't fire HE now, because if he does, he's going to splash damage himself as much as he is to me. As we know, the splash damage radius on a big gun like the KV has is actually 3 meters, so when he's that close to you, he can't fire HE without damaging himself. Now here we are up against Tiger P, which is one of the most formidable heavy tanks in its tier. But you see there, I just pushed onto him and gave him the tough and acute relative armor angles on the side of the tank and got that bounce. Now there we go, mastery game, almost 3.7k of damage, almost 1.2k of XP, which delivers the mastery badge at tier 7. Now I think this game was a good indication. It was very indicative of how to play this tank well, playing to its strengths, which are the strong armor, and trying to negate some of its weaknesses, which are the longer reload on the 122mm gun and some of the sloppy gun handling. Using, for example, its ability to ram with that heavy armor. Don't underestimate that, particularly if you had to run downhill as I did on that Comet. Now let's have a recap. It's an average heavy tank at best. There's nothing exceptional about it. There is nothing wrong with the tank itself. As I said, a good example is it's like a Ford, right? Nothing wrong with a Ford, but if you're comparing it to BMWs and Audis, then it does lack. And if you're comparing this tank to the Tiger P or Tiger I, it does lack. Or a T29, for example. It has good armor on the front, good angles that can be gone. You can side scrape front and back. The 107mm gun is a better option, I think, better gun handling. There's better reload as well, and it has the same pen, unusually, for a lower caliber gun. And that will give you better gun handling. As I said, it is inferior to the Tiger range. They're just simply better tanks than this. And you need to angle this tank to get bounces. But as you saw there against the Tiger P at the end, when you angle up and give them those acute angles, you will get bounces. And sometimes this can compensate for the rate of fire. So if you get caught in a brawl with a Tiger P or a Tiger I, try to use that because they have a much better rate of fire. Use supercharger or a fine gun. It will help with the gun handling a lot. And if you're top tier, you can go frontline in this, as I did in that game, as you have the armor. If you are not, then follow the other heavies, the tier 8 heavies. Check the setup and decide what you want to do. Be a support tank or go frontline, very much dependent on whether or not you are top tier. And don't get isolated in this thing, because your traverse is truly awful and you will get pummeled by something light and fast. So that's it. Cheers, Mush. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful, and all it remains for me to say is pants off.